In the 18th and 19th centuries, Asia and Africa were slowly being carved up by European colonial powers. The British came, the French came, the Portuguese came, the Dutch came. Basically, Europe looked at the world map and said, "Nice planet, we will take it." And how did they do this? Superior naval power, cannons, trading companies with private armies, and of course, the old European startup model. First trade, then interfere, then control, then write a textbook explaining how this was actually civilization. Very sweet. But have you ever heard of the time when an Indian kingdom defeated a major European naval power in the 18th century? Not resisted, not survived, defeated. Welcome to the Battle of Colachel. A battle where the Dutch East India Company came to Kerala expecting spices, submission, and maybe a nice colonial promotion. Instead, they got Marthanda Varma. Bad day at the office. The Dutch East India Company, or VOC, was not some cute little trading firm selling pepper in environmentally friendly packets. It was one of the most powerful corporations in world history. Ships, soldiers, forts, diplomats, monopoly contracts. Basically, Amazon Prime with artillery. By the 18th century, the Dutch had become a formidable naval power in the Indian Ocean. They controlled major parts of the spice trade and had already pushed the Portuguese out of several areas in Kerala and Ceylon. After a few victories, they made the classic colonial mistake. They started believing their own marketing brochure. They began interfering in the politics of Kerala's kingdoms, backing and threatening rulers, manipulating succession disputes, and behaving as if the Malabar coast was their personal boardroom. Unfortunately for them, one king did not attend the meeting, Marthanda Varma, the ruler of Travancore, a king who transformed Travancore from a regional kingdom into a serious military power. And unlike certain future textbook writers, he understood something very clearly. Trade is fine, foreign influence is not. And foreign companies with armies are not business partners. They are invaders with invoices. The clash became inevitable when the Dutch interfered in the affairs of Elayyadattu Swarupam, a kingdom claimed by Marthanda Varma. The Dutch supported a rival claimant and tried to block Travancore's rise. Then came Gustav Wilhelm van Imhoff, the Dutch governor of Ceylon, a man with confidence, a man with authority, a man who clearly had not read the room. Van Imhoff met Marthanda Varma and threatened him with war. He warned that the Dutch could invade Travancore and even threaten Padmanabhapuram, the capital. Now, in most colonial scripts, this is where the Indian ruler is supposed to panic, compromise, and sign something humiliating. But Marthanda Varma apparently missed that training module. He replied that he had been thinking of invading Europe someday. Now, pause for effect. Imagine the Dutch governor's face. He came to threaten Travancore, and suddenly he was mentally checking whether Amsterdam had enough coastal defenses. That one reply deserves its own national holiday, because this was not just sarcasm, this was sovereignty with a straight face. The Dutch expected fear. They received foreign policy comedy. Naturally, the Dutch were upset, because colonial powers can tolerate many things: heat, disease, long sea voyages, bad food, but an Indian king with confidence? Absolutely unacceptable. So the Dutch prepared for war. In 1741, they installed their preferred princess in Elayyadattu Swarupam and obtained land concessions in return. Marthanda Varma's response was swift. The Travancore army attacked. The Dutch forces were overwhelmed. And according to accounts, the defeat was so complete that only one Dutch soldier survived to carry the news. This is not a battle report. That is a customer complaint from history. This defeat shocked the Dutch authorities at Batavia. Their prestige had been damaged. And European prestige, as we know, was a very delicate imported item. So they sent a stronger force. A Dutch fleet with artillery and marines arrived under Captain Eustachius De Lannoy. Their target was clear: Colachel first, then Padmanabhapuram. The Dutch occupied Colachel. The capital of Travancore was only a short distance away. Their ships stood off the coast. Their guns were ready. Their soldiers were confident. And somewhere in the Dutch camp, someone probably said, "This should be easy." History loves that sentence. It usually appears 3 minutes before disaster. Marthanda Varma acted decisively. He strengthened his army, raised Naya regiments, rallied his forces, and prepared for battle. Before the final confrontation, he offered prayers at the Adi Keshava temple at Travancore and consecrated his sword. This was not just a military campaign. This was dharma, sovereignty, and statecraft coming together. A king defending his land, not for trade routes alone, not for revenue alone, but for freedom from foreign interference. And then came the day of reckoning. On 10th August 1741, the forces of Travancore struck. The Dutch front lines were cut through. Their defenses collapsed. Their supplies destroyed. Their confidence began leaking faster than the empire. The Travancore army took prisoners, including Captain De Lannoy himself and Donadi. The Dutch force that had arrived to restore prestige now became a case study in how not to underestimate Kerala. 4 days later, Travancore took full control of Colachel. The remaining Dutch withdrew towards Cochin, leaving behind their dead, their guns, and their broken dream of dominating Travancore. The Dutch debacle was complete. And let us pause here. This was 1741. An Indian kingdom had defeated a major European naval power. Not in a poem, not in folklore, not in nationalist imagination, on the battlefield, in Kerala, at Colachel. But naturally, our textbook looked at this and said, "Oh, that's interesting. Anyway, here are 17 more pages on European superiority." Because apparently when Indians lose, it is history. When Indians win, it is optional reading. The defeat at Colachel was a turning point. The Dutch never fully recovered their earlier influence in Kerala. Their dream of controlling Travancore was smashed. In 1753, they signed the Treaty of Mevlikara, agreeing not to obstruct Marthanda Varma's expansion. Translation: we came, we saw, we got corrected. We would now like peace. But here is where the story becomes even more fascinating. Marthanda Varma did not humiliate the Dutch prisoners. He treated them with honor, because this was India, where even defeated enemies, if brave, could be given dignity. Captain De Lannoy was not executed. He was absorbed into Travancore's service, and he later became one of the most important military officers in the kingdom, known as Valiya Kapitan, the Great Captain. Yes, the Dutch officer who came to conquer Travancore ended up modernizing Travancore's army. That was not a career change. That is history doing stand-up comedy. De Lannoy trained the Travancore army in European drill, artillery, firearms, and fortification methods. He helped strengthen the kingdom militarily, and the army he helped modernize later played an important role in resisting the expansionist ambitions of Mysore under Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan. So let us understand the full irony. The Dutch came to weaken Travancore. Their commander was captured. Then he helped strengthen Travancore, and the strengthened Travancore army later resisted other major powers. Outstanding work, VOC. 5-star contribution to the wrong side. This is why Colachel matters. It was not just a battle. It was a message that European power was not invincible, that Indian kingdoms were not passive victims waiting politely for colonization, that Marthanda Varma understood diplomacy, military reform, coastal strategy, and political sovereignty long before Modern historians discovered the word agency. And yet, where is Colachel in our mainstream history? Where is Marthanda Varma in the national imagination? Where is the chapter titled When Kerala Defeated the Dutch? Instead, we are told India was always weak, divided, passive, confused, and waiting for foreigners to organize us. Because nothing says balanced history like deleting every Indian victory and then asking why Indians lack confidence. Colachel should be remembered with Kayadra. It should be remembered with Palkhed. It should be remembered with Haldi Ghati, Sahara Ghat, Singhgad, Sambher, and every other battle where Indians refused to behave like subordinates in someone else's empire story. Marthanda Varma did not merely defeat the Dutch. He broke a psychological spell. He showed that an Indian king could stop a European company with ships, cannons, and colonial arrogance with vision, discipline, and courage. The Dutch came to Kerala as masters of the sea. They left Colachel as prisoners of Travancore. And their commander? He became Valiya Kapitan, the great captain, under the very king he had come to defeat. Somewhere history smiled, and somewhere a textbook editor quietly skipped the chapter. This ain't NCRT. This is Desi History Wala, roasting invaders, reclaiming Bharat.